Sometimes you ask yourself, are you successful?
Not every customer is a good customer, and a good customer costs you, doesn't make you anything.
Success.
Hi, thanks for tuning in for Success MN. This is a local Minnesota podcast talking about people who have become successful in their own line of work, whether they've started their own business, had a side hustle, or just been highly successful at their W-2 job. And here we are connecting people. Tune in, see who's on board today. Today on Success MN, we have my dear friend, Garrett Holcomb. And you have seen their trucks around Total Refrigeration. He works for the company. It is a family-owned company. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be a part of that dynamic and what it's like to grow along with your family.
Fun times.
Yeah, it's great. So I think we can talk. You and I know each other from bartending.
Right.
We are Minneapolis bartenders.
Old school.
Proudly retired.
Proudly retired, yeah.
And I mean, it's been great. We actually never worked together.
No.
But
Next door,
yeah. When you're next door, you just pop back and forth and buy drinks for each other, tip each other.
Slow nights, walk over real quick, grab a shot.
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
Glory days.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want to touch on your transition from this fast money, not needing to budget because you can just work another shift, and turning that into a W-2 job.
So it was a big difference in how you plan things out. The W-2, it's a salary situation. So you know what your income is every week or every 2 weeks. The downside is that's all you're getting for those 2 weeks. Like I said, I'm not picking up an extra shift. I'm not going to work extra hours. If I put in extra hours, I just did the company a favor. The fast cash was fun. Being able to go in and just work really hard one night and there's your fun money or do whatever you want. Now, the downside, though, to, as we touched on before, being a family business is it's not just a W-2. Yes, I'm salary underneath the company, but the company has to stay afloat. It's not like I'm just going to switch to another job. I'm not going to, worst case scenario, if everything collapsed, I could probably still find something in my field to do, which is nice because it's a skilled field. But no, it scares me pretty much every other week to make sure there's enough money in the bank, that things are going to clear, that, we're producing enough business that are going to cover all of our costs. So no, it definitely was a fun transition. I do miss the instant cash in your pocket type stuff. Uncle Sam not knowing everything you got, that was a great benefit. Now,
he does know.
Yeah.
He does.
He does know. Yeah. I claim 100%. But this, there's safety in the W-2 and the confidence that, hey, these are our expenses. This is what I want to budget for vacations. So I want to budget for home improvements. Things like that is a nice weight off my shoulders of, okay, I don't need to go pull 14 straight shifts and hope I bang it out every night.
Yeah. But, I mean, so theoretically, the safety of a W-2 is having that consistent income. You don't.
It's not guaranteed. If I make bad decisions, the company could go under, and, that's a scary thought. And, mostly what drives me isn't even really thinking about myself. It's thinking about, we have 17 other employees that this is their income where, they go to work every week to take care of themselves. So, it weighs into a lot of how fast you expand and how much money you put out there without knowing it's all coming back. So that part does scare me quite a bit. And, but you can't let that fear hold you back. It's just something you just have to adapt to. I don't want to say it's in the same idea of thinking, I'm going to go in, I'm going to work really hard tonight to get tips. I need a $200 a night. You just do what you got to do to get $200 that night. You got to step up your service. You got to hustle tables. You got to, step outside your realm to make sure you get that. Same thing happens on our side. I need to make sure that, we're grabbing every call that's coming in, that we're touching back with customers to make sure that, they're satisfied, that they're paying their bills on time. Because that's actually the biggest hard part is doing the work. We get plenty of work, but everybody wants you and loves you when they need something. And then as soon as it's done, it gets a little sketchy trying to get that payment back. So that's, things for us that we're trying to improve on.
So, I think one thing that I've talked with a bunch of other entrepreneurs is how every dollar matters.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you show up at the office every day, 9 a.m., 8 a.m.?
It ranges between 4:30 in the morning till the latest 9 a.m. Yeah.
Here I am being lazy at 9 a.m.
No, 9 a.m.
Okay.
9 a.m. is like where I felt like I got to stretch, stay at home, have a cup of coffee, read a little bit, and then I'll go to work. But, being a small business, you can only have so many people doing things. And if we have to get something transported out to a job site, early in the morning, we work all the way up to Brainerd. So that means I need to be on the road by 5:30 so the guys can be at the job by 7 and get going.
Okay. So, let's talk about your job title.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just the gopher?
Yeah. I say I'm the operations manager. So I'm just trying to make sure that, things are facilitated, that we have the material, that we have the jobs, that the admin's running correctly, that we're following, our tax liabilities, all those stuff. And I have people underneath me that also help me with those little specialties with, office staff. But I also have a great partner who's my brother-in-law. He is really stuck on the install side. So as far as like big jobs that we have go on, he loads up the trailers. He makes sure that we have the material. He's the one more often than not getting up early to take this stuff in. It's only if we're back to back on jobs where he can't get to both at the same time. Then I jump in as a second guy to do it. And we now just got our third guy that helps out. So I actually got bumped down to third place because I'm trying not to get up early anymore.
Yeah.
So we have my brother-in-law, and we also have our shop guy that will deliver material to the guys at the job site.
Okay. But I'm sure that you coordinate these jobs and you make sure that they happen.
I used to do more, not so much. And my brother-in-law's really taken that home and scheduling stuff, making sure it's all lined up, the weeks are lined up, that we're not overlapping unless we really have to. My more focus has moved into like the service side that we do.
Okay.
So we have an install team, and we have a service team, and I focus more of my energy on the service side, on getting more customers, on building a bigger, I guess I would say market with our service guys. So, when we're working with one of our major customers who, I don't want to give out names or anything, but, they have 200 locations. Well, we have a good chunk of them, but I want all 200. So what are we trying to do that? And that's where I put my energy.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're in a situation where, let's say they've got 200 locations and you're at 75 of them, do you just get the other 125 locations by being faster, being better?
Our focus is one, being better, so that there's not repeat callbacks on same problems that the customer has. So it's one shop done. Being competitive price-wise, and really what we're trying to do right now is find future problems that they may have and addressing it with them ahead of time so they can limit costs and not have emergency situations, because emergency situations are where it costs an arm and a leg. So we try to do everything we do in their markets and all their equipment that we work on and say, we see this being a future problem. We've researched with the vendor, with the manufacturer, and if you want to get ahead of this is what we recommend. And we go and we have sit downs and meetings with their upper level management to say, okay, where can we save you money in the long term to get these things fixed now? So by trying to be thoughtful of their process and what they have to go to, and think that at the end of the game, if you save money, we get more business, then everybody wins. Yeah. So
do you ever put clients on like retainer? You know how lawyers do it? Hey, if anything goes wrong, call us.
No, we don't have retainer, but we do have priority.
Okay. Same thing.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, especially, we were talking about earlier about the emergency seasons, the deep of winter and the deep of summer, they're both extreme. We have a priority list, and unfortunately the bigger customers get the first calls, and we stay on top of those until they're all done. Then we move down the road to customers that we may see once every 3 years to customers who maybe don't pay their bill on time. Like,
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you pay a little faster. We get there a little faster.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a hierarchy to our calls and how we handle them.
Uh-huh. And I'm sure that helps with building business. If someone's not even paying you.
It helps us limit our loss.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not just saying yes to everybody. I had a good friend of mine that, told me, said, not every customer is a good customer, and a good customer costs you, doesn't make you anything. So you don't need to say yes to everybody. And if they want you to be cheaper, then they don't need to be your customer, because you being cheaper doesn't help you out. And usually if they want you to be cheaper, they're probably not the best customer to work with, ideally.
Yeah.
So for us, it's about picking the battles and, using a very quick system to sort of filter out the nasty ones.
Mm-hmm. I think when you start to realize your own value, that's when you can provide better value.
Mm-hmm.
If you're out here doing jobs where you're not even getting paid, how are you going to get the infrastructure to build a better business?
Correct.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to learn that. At first I wanted to say yes to every customer that called, because I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to handle everybody, and you get burned a couple of times and you're losing money. And unfortunately, it's not like we can go repo their walk-in cooler,
Right, right. The work that you did.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go sledgehammer it.
You could. And then, not that thought's ever crossed my mind. But, you run into other legal problems, because the stuff that we deal with, they have other products and they have other businesses that run off of that. So if we were to even say, okay, great, we're going to take back our equipment, and something happens to those other parts of it, then we're liable for all of it. So that's where it's like, unfortunately, once we fix it and we're done with it, our legal recourse is just mechanics lien. Great.
Yeah.
In 20 years, when they want to sell the building or whatever, we get our $500 back.
And I feel like 90% of businesses rent their buildings.
They do. So then you're fighting the landlord, and the landlord's fighting the tenant, and it becomes nasty. And we try to go with small claims, and the amount of effort it takes to file and do that for a $600 bill, you almost lose it in your admin labor just to go get that money.
Yeah, and they know it.
Mm-hmm.
They know you're not going to fight it.
No. So we're working on, one, upgrading our system, so we're not really doing invoices anymore. Mm-hmm. 2, filtering out the nasty customers that we feel aren't going to really be truthful to their payment. So that we're getting paid quicker. We're getting paid, 98% of the time. There's still going to be the ones that fall through the crack. But we're not falling deep behind, which when we first took over, man, there'd be time periods where I was $300,000 behind on payments. And we weren't behind on paying our stuff, but waiting for customers to pay us. And you're like, man, why am I struggling so hard? And you're like, there's $300,000 sitting out there in cash that we've already paid out.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting to get back. So,
wow. I mean, I can imagine if someone gave me a bill for $300,000, probably have to tweedle my thumbs a little bit before.
Well, I mean, it was a bunch of like $1,000 bills, right? And there'd be a couple of
So this is years.
Yeah, this would be like our first year we took over. I got the end of that first year, and we were still owed from all of our customers combined like $287,000. Well, even if you say, because our profits are a decent amount of it, but we had to pay for all that material and that labor up front.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of money just that I paid out.
Yeah.
That I haven't recouped. And that's when we started looking at it and saying, we're doing this wrong. Why? Why are we getting so stuck out there? And I talked to friends in the industry, and I learned some things on what they were doing. And we did get a business lawyer on retainer, and we're like, okay, look at our policies, look at our invoicing. What legal terms can we put in there to help protect us better? Because every time I try to go up against this person, I feel like I'm losing. So they redid all that stuff for us, and now it's a simpler system.
Good. I think that's probably the hardest part about being a startup. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to go and chase every single client because you think you're going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have one that burns you. and you are emotionally exhausted, you are financially exhausted, and you don't have the time to take care of it.
No.
It's, yeah.
And you get burned on both sides. It's, the original work that was done, then chasing them down, that takes more time and more effort, and more money out because there isn't a free labor any of it. Office, my time, it's wasted that wasn't gained getting something else. So that's it. You're right. It took us a little time. Banged our heads a couple times for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not alone. Like, there's every realtor with their horrible client story. So
I envy you guys because I couldn't do it.
You envious?
Yeah, I couldn't. I envy you guys' patience is what I should say.
Oh, okay.
Because you having to deal with the customer base that you deal with, and me being a homeowner, I know what I put you through, and it's not the easiest.
You were easy.
But just to be that diligent and be professional in front of them every single time, when I know there's ones that they just need to be spanked like a toddler.
Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of difficult clients. So far, I haven't fired one. My broker almost fired one for me. He kept going to my broker to complain about me. And the first time it happened, he calls me and he's like, Melissa, what's going on? Why are you messing up? And I was like, I don't know. And then by the fourth time he went, my broker shuts the door and goes, sit down.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I like that support.
It was nice. It was really nice. But like the dynamic there was everybody in real estate is somebody you know. It's somebody you love. It's somebody you know through church, through family, through friends. And then you really have to feel for them because they're going through the most stressful transaction of their life. And then something like that happens and you still have to show kindness. And it's like, I just, yeah, it definitely takes a lot of, the more empathy you have, the more patience you'll have. That's
actually one of the main reasons why we haven't gotten to residential, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because of, it's easier for me to be harder on commercial, even though they are small businesses and stuff like that. But, there's insurances, there's things behind them, and we're not going in as really an upgrade. We're coming in because we're saving something, we're fixing something. And we've tried to work with the customers on insurance. We do have our crazy ones that they expect, since, they use you, that they need you right now, you're going to jump foot. And you're like, well, I cover a territory that's, a couple hours wide drive time. So, we try to get to you as fast as we can. And I had a customer where actually he yelled at not only my office manager, he yelled at my service manager. And I got on the phone and he started to raise his voice to me and we got into it. And I was like, all right, fine. You don't have to pay any more bills, but I'm meeting you in the parking lot and I'm going to take it out on your, what. And he calmed down real quick and he's like, I'm sorry. I just, I get hot headed. And I'm like, that's fine if you get hot headed, man. I'm in a small business. I understand. But you yell at any of my team members or my office like that again, and we will come to blows. I'm not even going to apologize about it.
It's that support.
Yeah. There's no reason. We're all here to try and do a job and do the best we can.
Sometimes just saying it. You didn't actually beat him up, did you?
No. He calmed down and he was really nice after that. And I know he's sort of a hothead. That's how he reacts. And, I sat down and I said, what is your problem? And he said, well, this. I said, great. Here's plan A, plan B, plan C. Pick which one you want and we're going to be dead. That's it. Take care of it. And that was it.
He just wanted to be angry for a bit.
He did. And it comes to communication. That's why I found out a lot of it. It's communication. It's somebody puts an idea and it doesn't get perceived by the other person well, or, there's just miscommunication where nobody understood what the idea was. So sitting down and taking a second to really just pinpoint what is it that you need, then that's an easy solution and we're moving forward. Yeah. It's
there's always a solution.
There is.
And I feel like the more often you let emotion get into the mix, it always makes it worse.
And sometimes the solution's not with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes the solution's out there, but there's always a solution.
Yep. You can go find it.
Yep.
So I think we've talked a lot about what you do at your business. I don't think we talked about what your business does.
Oh, yeah. We work on mostly walk-in coolers and freezers, kitchen cooling and freezing equipment, commercial AC. We don't really do the ductwork or design for it, but we can work on the equipment. We can repair the equipment. We can then change the equipment out. But the most of our bread and butter is in the refrigeration. So we do as small as your dive bar walk-in beer keg cooler to your 60,000 square foot warehouse fish processing plant, where the evaporators are about the size of like a mini bus. So yeah, we can pretty much do it all. And that's what we do.
Cool.
It's a small niche.
Yeah, very cool. And as we walk into these Minnesota coldest months, you said this is your busy season, right?
When we get deeper into the winter months.
Okay.
So like January, right now, this is actually a chill time for us. We'll be wrapping up our installs. But when we get into like January, February, when it starts getting really, really cold, then yeah, we'll be back onto overtime type stuff.
Mm-hmm. And why is that? Because like you think it's cold, so it should just be cold.
Right. So I try to explain to people, walk-in freezers and coolers, it being 100 degrees is just as bad as it being 0 degrees. It's the way gas moves in between the equipment. And when you're at 100 degrees, you're overpressurized mostly. And if you're at 0 degrees, you're underpressurized. So the system starves. So that's when we get calls out because the system can't even pump the gas through to cause the cooling effect that it needs to. So, and other things go wrong. You have electrical that doesn't act well with ice. So if, snow drifts get blown up to something or, a lot of factors of that nature will affect it. So, right now it's not too bad. And then heating calls. Right now, people won't notice the heating as bad, but as it starts getting to the zeros and stuff, or that furnace or whatever's going 24/7, the second that it shuts off, you're dropping in temp inside your house, or not really a house, but like store.
Yeah.
So that's where we get called out, and you have cracked heat exchangers or essentially a commercial pilot light not working.
Mm-hmm.
So we get called out.
I mean, so in a business where everything is so on call, on demand, how do you make sure you have the staff for that?
You pray.
You're like, please just let one thing break today.
Yeah. We get days like that where your guys are just run. They, I've had guys do 23-hour shifts. Yeah, it's brutal. And you try, hopefully, that there's nothing going on. You can say, hey, just stay home, sleep. But there's no exact way to do it. I hope to get to a size that there's like shifts that almost teams take instead of guys take. Right now we're still pretty small as a company. So, I do give a lot of credit to my guys of just toughing it out. And I think the other thing that people don't really realize is like, yeah, they're long days, but being on a rooftop when it's 0 degrees out and there's a wind chill, you can't take your gloves off for more than a minute without things hurting. And you're touching small electrical components, you're touching small nuts. Like it's just, it wears on the body, and you have to go back down and you have to heat back up and then go back up to the rooftop.
And heat back up like what, in a car?
Usually they'll go in the store or the commercial building where it's heated, or if they need to, yeah, they'll go to their car if there's like a new installation and there's no heat on premise. I mean, a lot of the GCs in Minnesota work really well with us about having temporary heat in the building while we're doing an installation. But yeah, you go back in the car and you sit, and I look at my guys and I see their cars running for 12 hours a day. And, you're like, gosh, that's a lot of gas just burning. But at the same time, I would do the exact same thing. So why would I blame them?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else you do. If you're cold, you're cold.
Yeah.
The job sounds miserable.
Yeah. During the cold months, it's definitely, you find out who the good guys are and which ones don't make it because they quit pretty quickly, or they're like, I think I'm just going to take a couple months off.
I would too.
Yeah, I would.
I'm going to go do air conditionings
in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the dream.
I think, so what are you looking for I'm assuming you're hiring most of the time.
No, we try not to.
Really? You try to keep the people you have.
We really try to keep the guys we have. We're a union, so that helps a lot. They have guys going to school, apprentices that we can bring on, and within a couple of weeks whether the guy's muster or not. There's different niches in our field, so it just may not be our part that he likes. There's bigger companies that deal with just quite literally putting up duct systems and working on apartment buildings. That may be their forte, what they like to do. Or talking on heat pumps, there's guys that are heat pump specialists, So we try to figure out, the guys that work with us, that gel well with us, and then we treat them. I like treat everybody like family, make it an environment that they want to be at, and then I just hold on to them. I don't like to have turnover. I don't like to have new guys in there. I've tried the mass hiring, and it just ends up costing money, and then you're worried about everything that they touched and went on, and you have to go back and fix, or is that going to be a nightmare 6 months from now that you have to explain to the customer? So having the guys around me that I trust, that my service manager trusts, and that, other guys in the field can call and, talk to, goes a long way.
Yeah.
So I try not to hire a lot.
I think a lot of people underestimate the cost of hiring somebody.
So expensive.
Yeah. You got to pay them while you're training them in. You have to pay someone to train them. And if they can't do the job...
Well, we have to outfit every guy with a vehicle and tools.
Oh my gosh.
So, and we always have one or two vehicles that we can rotate. I use it as a spare in case a guy's van goes down or something like that. So I try not to have all of our vehicles on the road. It gets really scary at that point. But, vehicles right now are $40,000 to $60,000 depending on what you get. The hand tools and power tools are another $12,000 to $15,000. So, you're trusting somebody that you just met through 2 interviews. Hopefully they don't steal things. You can't put an Apple tracker on a wrench.
Effectively, you went on 2 dates with these people.
Yep.
And then you're trusting them with $90,000.
Essentially, yeah.
That's bold. That's bold. That's a very courageous.
Yeah, there's been some bad breakups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they take the $90,000 and go?
Not the $90,000, but they take like a tip. Those power tools look pretty good, so he didn't need that bag.
Oh my gosh. That's like, I mean, there's so many unknown costs with running a business, and you're trying to track every dollar.
And every time you add a guy, that's an added insurance cost. So, it's a lot of little things that add up. That's actually uniforms that you buy them.
With the embroidered name tags.
We did that for a while, and I stopped doing that.
You cut the dollar.
Yeah, we've done the loop on the uniform thing, but it was getting pricey. A guy would cost me, if I'm outfitting him for the entire year. So we're talking jackets, hoodies, and we have different types of jackets for the the deep winter and then 3 seasons, pants, shirts. You're looking at $800 a guy just to start him in uniforms.
Put that on top of the 90.
On top of the 90. Yeah. And we give them Gatorades on hot days. So
wow. That's what everybody wants. No more lemonades?
No, they pee too much.
That'll happen. Okay. Now the next, I don't know how long this is going to take, but the next bit is going to be talking about in-depth HVAC.
Oh no.
So, I mean, this is more for like the inspectors and the realtors that listen to this podcast.
Okay.
Like, let's get into it. So the AC unit, we were kind of talking about this before we got started. Let's talk about how a air conditioner unit, like in a typical residential home, actually functions.
It's pretty simple. You have 2 components. You have your condenser and you have your furnace on the inside. Your condenser is just a coil that rejects heat with the blower motor that's out there. And then inside you have your compressor. And that compressor is what's changing the gas pressure and its temperature. On the inside, you have your heating element, your blower motor that blows the air through the furnace, and then your cooling coil, which we call the evap coil.
And they're both on the inside.
They're both on the inside, correct. And so your evap coil is connected to the coil on the outside. The burners and the blower motor are inside the furnace, but they're they're separate. They can work on their own independently.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, you have your evap coil for your AC, and then blower motor kicks on and throws the air through the ductwork.
Okay.
During the wintertime, your heater coil or your heating element, whether it's electric or gas, those are the burners, that just comes on and your blower moves the hot air through the ductwork. Now, the correlation between the coil on the inside and the coil on the outside is what they're doing with the gas temperature. So the gas comes in, it freezes
Into the coil.
into the coil on the inside, and that's what causes the cooling. And then as it comes back out, it's taking, we say rejecting the heat, but it's taking pretty much the heat away to the condenser outside, and that's what that fan's blowing off. So
It does feel hot.
yeah, it blows off heat.
Mhm.
And what it's doing, it's blowing the heat off of the gas that the gas captured.
Huh. As the system was cooling.
Correct.
Okay.
That was very, very layman's terms. So like AC guys will be yelling at me about how I really described that.
AC guys don't listen to my podcast.
But essentially that's what it is. It's rejecting the heat outside and it's cooling on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Now, a mystery that one time I sold a listing with a heat pump.
Mm-hmm.
He told me that all it is it takes, even when it's negative 20,
Mm-hmm.
it takes the heat that's in the air outside and it pushes it inside your house.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed like the weirdest concept ever to me.
Mm-hmm.
Could you?
Yes. So they're right. It's called a reversing valve on the inside and it just switches the way the gas goes. But the way they're taking heat, and this is what got hard about with school too when they explain it, is yes, it could be negative 20 outside, but that refrigerant can get to negative 40. So negative 20 seems warm to negative 40. And it pulls whatever little heat it can. Now, it's not going to be as efficient at that temperature compared to what it would be at 30 degrees. That's why heat pumps aren't really used in the north up here, because they can't extrapolate enough heat to be efficient for us to actually use for heating. It can pull off a little bit, but the little bit it's pulling off, let's say you need to heat your house and you wanted to get 80 degree temperature air out, you're never going to reach that when we're negative 20. It may be kicking out 50 degree air because that's
gosh.
all it could convert.
Huh.
So that's why heat pumps aren't used up here. But down south, where they're not getting to our temperatures, say it gets to 20 degrees, take that negative 40 to 20, that's a big heat difference. They can project that, or it can take that inside and then reject the heat inside.
So there's there's a parameter in the United States where they don't work that well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get better at that with refrigerants. I don't see it ever being cost effective for us out here, especially when we have heating things like the boilers and radiators. To me, that is probably the best type of heat to get because it doesn't just warm the item itself. It warms the floors, it warms the walls, and they trap that heat. So that heat lingers, and it's a lot easier for you to keep a warmer area than just heating air that as soon as that heat stops hitting the air, it dissipates.
Mm-hmm.
You heat your wood floors will stay warm, for a decent amount of time compared to it just being in the air.
Yeah. I think that's so huge. People are so obsessed with central heat.
No.
I don't like it.
No.
I have boiler heat. I know you have boiler heat. And it's the best.
I agree.
The air feels better in the winter and your skin doesn't get as dry.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all around better. But my absolute favorite in any house is boiler heat with central air.
I agree. Because it's creating that warmth area that you need and then just conditioning the warmer air. Because that's the thing that does sort of stink about not having central air is you can walk around in cold spots in your house because the radiated heat only can go so far. So, and it's also quicker. If you need to heat up your house with central air, it can get there air-wise in about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If you let your radiator get too cold, it'll say, yeah, it'll hit that in 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to be sleeping 2.5 hours. I don't need you anymore.
Uh-huh. That's when you get the little electrical plug-in.
Yeah, exactly. Electric blankets and...
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but for sustained heat, the radiator's the best. I do like the add-on of the central air if you do have that available to you. In fact, we use that with our mini split.
Mm-hmm.
And, mini split sort of acts the same way as a
heat pump.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's what it does.
Really?
Uh-huh. It's not like on the same wall or same unit, but does the same thing. A reversing valve flips, so it rejects the heat in that evaporator and blows it out cold outside.
So it's just another little heat pump, but reverse heat pump, cold pump.
Yeah.
I know my opposites.
Yeah, we just say, I don't know why it says heat pump problem, but that's what they're called.
Really?
Mm-hmm, every single one of them.
Heat pumps.
Heat pumps, usually we just refer to those as like in-wall units.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mini splits, of course, you've seen those, which are great for houses that I think those should be more of a fad than they are. I think people getting talked into duct systems when they have a house that's over 100 years old is a dumb idea.
Yeah.
You lose integrity of the house. I don't feel like it can ever be done correctly. And then the spaces really aren't made for duct either. It just isn't. So mini splits are, to me, if you don't mind the heads, and they've gotten a lot snazzier with the design on those heads, where if you get a good drywaller guy, it just looks like a slit in the wall and you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah. I think so many people are against the mini split system because they look like wall units.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I agree. The older ones did, for sure. I try to refer to people, and this also comes from a friend that, isn't from this country. Mini splits are huge, like in Europe and other countries. And we got to think it's because they're dealing with much older buildings and they're less intrusive and they do exactly what's needed. I think the American culture and the German culture too is making a big push on making these aesthetically pleasing. So, give it another 10 years and I think you could see a bigger demand for mini splits. And they're a heck of a lot cheaper to put in over a central air system.
Yeah. That's on my bucket list this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I've been struggling without AC. But when you buy a house that needs flipping, you just got to pick your battles.
Absolutely.
So I think when you were getting started in this, did you always want to do HVAC?
Heck no. I just want to be rich.
Yeah.
Just trying to find the quickest way to get there.
Is it? So has your family owned this business your whole life?
No.
Okay.
We've taken quite a road to get here. Started from my father, who started pressure washing truck stops and trucks and Denny's diners and stuff like that. And built his way up to a flooring company out in California. Did pretty decently as a one-man shop out there, and gave me some experience that way. Got his GC license, and so I got exposure to different things there. Then I got away from the field and got into restaurants for a long time. That's when I was bartending and managing, and learned the aspect of how to deal with people, and learning more of the budgetary type stuff. Then me and my brother-in-law decided we were going to flip houses, and we did that for about 1.5 years.
Was that here?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Minnesota. And we were successful and made some money on it. And I just remember telling him, I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this, because one, to get projects that I thought were big enough that we could do quick enough, there wasn't a lot of money in what I saw. I know other guys have done it and done successfully. I just couldn't see it. And I told him, I was like, but everything we did, doesn't matter if we followed the code, we still needed a contract to come in here and sign off on it with an inspector. And I said, so that tells me that the trades aren't going to go anywhere. And so he talked to my dad and him and I, and we're like, why don't we buy a trade company and see if we can run that? So we looked at plumbing companies. We looked at electrical companies. We looked at insulation companies. And we didn't care what we were going to get into. Just the numbers had to make sense for what we were going to invest. And this one came along and didn't have a clue about what this field was. That's like the one thing that we never touched was
refrigeration.
HVAC.
Is a weird.
Well, refrigeration on top of that, but like HVAC, I was like, it blows cold air. What else do I need to know? And boy, that was a big learning curve. But I put myself back through school and got my HVAC degree. My brother-in-law went to the union and he did his 5 years and became a journeyman. So, we, as we're learning the business, we actually learned about the things involving it. So, and we're, I think not, maybe not the smartest guy in the room, but I know we can figure things out if we work at it hard enough. So I was confident in that. And, we still went to my dad as, hey, what did you do? What would you do? Type things. And that's still almost a weekly conversation I have with him. But yeah, that's how we got into it. And luckily we contracted a deal that when we bought it from the original company, that the other owners had to stay on for 3 years.
Smart.
To help us navigate and learn and piggyback them. I wish I would have known what I know now, because I would have rode them even harder on what I don't know. But they were very generous and, showed us some good starting tools. And that helped a great deal. And now we are at year 7, about to come up to year 8.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I empathize with the previous owners, because everything seems so automatic. It seems like you could just be like, oh yeah, just do it this way. You're not thinking about what you're not teaching them. You're not thinking about what it took to build the system that you use every single day.
Absolutely.
It was a process to get there. And if you, as the new business owner, don't know to ask about the process,
they just don't tell you.
And why would they? They know
exactly.
what works.
No, I mean, there's been a lot of I wish I would have known to ask this question then, because you're right. It was automatic for them. And I think that came from them also growing the business and bumping their heads. They had bought the business from a previous owner, and 2 of them were employees of the previous owner. And he wanted to get out in, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s. So that's when they bought it. And then they ran it from 2000 to 2016 when we got it. But, they dealt with their, big lawsuits where they're being brought in on a $500,000 job, which, knock on wood, that's never going to happen to us. But learning from that, what they did differently after that aspect, luckily they came out ahead on that one, but still the scares and the amount of time you had to spend in court and going through all those, legalities. But those are things that they showed us, because, we were wondering, why do you want to sell? Was my always biggest question. If you're making money and they made good money, why do you want to sell? For them, it was an age thing. They did want to pass the business on to one of the sons of one of the owners, and he just wasn't at the age or the mentality to do it. So luckily, right time, right place, I guess. And yeah. And the son still works with us. He's a
really?
Yeah, he's a great guy. An awesome dad, and just an overall like family. I really enjoy working with him. So it worked out great, and now he hopefully has a lifelong job, and will retire from the union making pretty good money. So works out.
And he doesn't need to worry about the company making money.
No.
Best of both worlds.
Absolutely. No financial headaches on his side.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure everybody has financial headaches.
Absolutely.
But
not not trying to keep other people employed, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep your lights on.
Yeah. That's a whole thing. Yeah. If you so these mics actually pick up most things. So if you tap on the table too, it'll pick that up.
Gotcha.
So I think success looks so different to everybody. How do you define success?
And I remember I was reading that question, and to me, it's a simple answer, but not a simple process. To me, success is multi-generational wealth.
Yes.
I think success will be the point when I know my kids don't have to worry and their kids don't have to worry. And that was passed down from my dad. He's done everything he can to know that we don't have to worry, We do, but I would never have to be afraid of can I come home, or, is there going to be food on the table? Dad will be there to help out, So my goal is to create from this company, and hopefully build more companies, something that my kids won't have to worry about any of those things. And, hopefully they'll put the drive in them to do better than I did.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. I think about what my parents have done for me. And there's no way I would be successful without the foundation they provided me.
Not even close.
No way. No way. And that is the true multi-generational wealth built responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you build it responsibly, then they learn responsibility.
Absolutely.
So-
Nothing's given.
No,
Nothing's ever given, but
your dad's sitting here hand in hand working with you still,
absolutely.
building this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it also feels different when you're building something with your family. Like he's probably never going to retire.
No, I don't think he wants to either.
Yeah.
I think there's about being part of the game, as we call it.
Mhm.
It keeps the brain working. It keeps you, purpose.
Mm-hmm.
He's having more fun with it. He doesn't have to clock in for a job, and he doesn't have to go do things anymore. He still gets a paycheck every week.
Uh-huh.
So he's enjoying those parts, but his brain never stops about what's the next adventure for our company and our family going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's always on our minds.
Yeah. Getting rid of like that headache is, I mean, getting rid of the headache of like, where's the next paycheck coming from?
He doesn't have to grind anymore.
Yeah.
Now he's just more of a conseiller.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, you have to grind.
I have to grind.
Mhm.
It's my turn though. It's been my turn.
Yeah. And it becomes a point like you see the example of how to do it, and it becomes a little easier on how to do it. It's going to be different
Mm-hmm.
because if you want to get bigger, you got to learn to scale, and that's a whole different game.
That's where we're the different grind. He put down the hours, he put down the blood, sweat, and tears. I don't necessarily have the blood, sweat, and tears into it, but it's like, how do I scale this? How do I make this so that me and my brother-in-law can retire hopefully in 10, 15 years if we want to, because it's already running. It's
Mhm.
already a machine. How to do that and do that without compromising ourselves. That's the thing. There's lots of guys that will sell their grandmother to get a job. Yeah. And that will never be me. That will never be the way we operate. And I'll never do things to make anybody who wants to work for me feel like they're an employee. I want them to feel like they're family. So, trying to do that and do it successfully is definitely the grind part now. Go to HVAC school, get your degree, and you'll never have to worry about a job again.
What is the average salary for like a starting HVAC person?
I don't know what the salary is. I think the first year apprentice, this is total benefits. So I think their hourly wage is around like 21 or 22, but then they have benefits that are up to around $30 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's just starting. Like you're still kind of in school.
You're apprentice, yeah, your first year. So you're still doing, like for Minneapolis, you do 1 day of school.
Mm-hmm.
And for St. Paul, you go to night school, I think 2 or 3 times a week. And you do that. But once you become a journeyman, which is 5 years out, so let's say you start when you're 22. By the time you're 27, right now you'd be making $45 an hour to your paycheck, and then 30-something an hour to your benefit. Now, their healthcare is on point. Mm-hmm. It is, these guys, I think my service manager had a full shoulder replacement, full knee replacement, and it cost him like $2,000. And they're like $70,000 operations.
Yeah.
Their retirement is pretty sick because it's a pension.
Yes.
So you'd never run out.
Yeah.
Once you retire, I think right now it's like if you retire at full retirement points you can get. I don't know really how that works because I'm not part of the union. I know facilitate a little bit. But they're from $10,000 to $12,000 a month.
Yes.
For the rest of their lives.
I think like usually it's a pay scale where you make like 80% of what your salary was.
They're based off of amount of years, hours. Oh shoot, years, hours, and then they're giving a certain percentage of each hour put in.
Yeah. So
like a guy who can retire at 20 years retires at 20 years, but he's only gonna get like 8,000. A guy that goes to 25 years gets like 10,000. A guy that goes to 30 years can get 12,000.
And this is a month for the rest of their lives.
Doesn't stop.
I think one thing I definitely don't want to glaze over too, because I know a lot of 22-year-olds that are struggling, that $21 an hour is you getting paid to go through school. Right?
No.
Oh my God.
Okay, so they don't pay for you to go through school, but like that's why, my sort of issue between Minneapolis and St. Paul is my guy that's going to Minneapolis, he can only do a 32-hour week. And actually, I've had a conversation with him. If he wants to put in a 10-hour day, then he can do 4 10-hour days and then his day of school.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get paid for being at school. That's why St. Paul I like a little better, because they can do a full 8-hour day at work, then go to night school afterwards. But then they're getting done at 9 o'clock at night, 3 times a week. It wears on you. If you're younger, not so bad. But if you're, older and you have kids, it gets a little bit stressful. But that's only 5 years.
It's only 5 years.
5 years. And I get it. That may seem like a long time. In the scheme of things, it's not a long time.
5 years seems like so much at the beginning of it. Looking back on it, you're like, oh.
It's done.
Think about where you were 5 years ago.
Right. And you're making some sick money. On the low end, I would say my journeyman guy is the one. And here's the thing is their benefits also like PTO.
Mm-hmm.
And they get a decent amount of money to PTO compared to like what a office job would offer you. Or, I think your journeyman, the amount of money that goes to your PTO is almost worth 4 weeks off a year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no cutoff. It rolls over if you don't use it. It keeps building. It's like a savings account for you. But on the low end, they're making $75,000 a year plus their benefits. On the high end, I know some guys at some of their shops are making $120,000 plus their benefits.
Yeah.
So, it can get up there. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the hours. It's not just a guarantee. But if you're young, you're hungry, you want to grind, go for it.
Yeah.
I knew a kid who was 27 years old and made $115,000 on just his paycheck.
Wow.
That wasn't including any of his benefits.
Yeah, that's some life-changing money.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. And for someone who's like been struggling to pay rent or something, all of a sudden, 115, you're making $10,000 a month.
And the people talk about like, getting into trade school, how hard. They have so many companies out there that are giving grants just to go to trade school because there's not enough people in our field. Mm-hmm. So you can look up, I went to MCTC. I love their program. I think it's top notch. But you go to their school and they literally are like throwing money at you. They're like, write a 1-page essay. We have nobody else applying for it. It's a $5,000 grant. Okay.
Yeah, free money.
Pay for your school.
So what you're saying is HVAC is free money.
Very, very easily, yeah. And you know what? The thing that's great too is this transverses. So let's say you go through HVAC school up here and you get your degree and you're like, you know what? I just don't like the cold. Great. Go to Florida. Your degree still works down there. It's not like there's a Minneapolis one, there's a Florida one. No, there's a basic knowledge of this and you go to any state you want to and you'll get picked up.
Mm-hmm. So for anyone who wants to just like restart their life, this is the opportunity for you to do it again and again and again. Mm-hmm. But does the pension carry?
No. If you switch unions, then whatever their union rules are and they have, that will be theirs. I don't know what it'd be like if you were like to spend 5 years in a union here and take off. I don't know that type of stuff, but I just know you can go on Indeed right now and just look up HVAC jobs all over the nation. They're always hiring all over and that's actually, you can go in other countries and it's still useful, still the same science, same technology. Mm-hmm. So it's a skill that you can forever use and make money off of. Yeah.
And it is very cool to learn about.
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of HVAC questions.
It's a very interesting field.
Mm-hmm. So circling back, we are talking about houses a little bit, but I want to talk about your housing journey. I know you've done flipping houses, and then the house we bought together, and then the goal is to grow an investment portfolio one day. You're a little overwhelmed with not overwhelmed, but occupied and growing a business right now.
Correct.
So we'll get there. Yeah. We'll get there. But I want to talk about what it's like living in your house with your wife. You just got married. You're living the dream right now.
Yeah. No, we've definitely hit a lot of goals over the last couple of years. Flipping house, I thought was a great experience. I suggest everybody to try it once because you learn so many things that you would never even begin to look at, how houses are framed, how they're plumbed, how electrical works. It's not as complicated as people think. And once you get in the guts of it, it makes life a lot simpler. So home projects seem that much easier to do. Our house, that was an adventure because we were going from, do we want duplex? Do we want single family home? We ended up with our 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Uptown, which has been great. I love the social aspect of it. The activities we get to do, we love going on walks around the neighborhood. So, it's a great first time house. Looking to maybe get into a little bit bigger thing, but here comes the other side. No kids yet, so why not build up the investment portfolio?
Yeah.
Why not go put the money that we're putting aside into other buildings and rent them out? And that's another thing. Once you flip a house, you can be a landlord.
Yeah.
You learn the landlord laws. They got some rental laws that you need to take heed of. But then when you have an amazing friend like Melissa help you with some of those questions about, hey, is this right? Can I do this legally? Then that's a great thing to have. But if you've flipped a house or gotten into a property, then being a landlord is pretty cinch. Yeah.
I mean, the hardest thing is everyone worries about, like, what if the toilet breaks in the middle of the night? This morning, my renter woke me up because they knew not to put potato skins down the garbage disposal. They didn't know about carrot skins. They tried to fix it themselves. They plunged it.
Oh, no.
The garbage disposal fell off of the like, it's just it's just a thing. Just a thing.
They popped the disposal off the sink
with a plunger.
That's some high pressure there.
Yeah, they must have really been going at it there. But I
wonder what they do for a day job.
Yeah, definitely not handyman work.
No.
But like, you hear that and you're like, okay, well, I know what broke if something broke. Okay, I'll go over there, see if it broke, or see if I can just twist it back on. Walked over there, twist it back on. I didn't, but I know how to fix it.
Right.
But my dad was just available, so.
No, and that's absolutely it. Something goes wrong or something happens, you can logically go, okay, it's going to be this, this, and this.
Yeah.
I hope it's not this, because that's going to be expensive and a pain in the butt. But it could be something as simple as this, like checking the breaker, checking a fuse. Small things that, unfortunately, if you don't get into homeowning or getting into property, you just don't think of. I don't know how many conversations I've had with people like, all right, did you check your breaker? Yes. Is the fuse popped? No. Well, did you check the power switch? Oh, there's a power switch?
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of walk in there, go in the box, look up. Oh, yeah, that is off. Okay.
There you go. Fixed it.
Simple solutions.
There's so many simple solutions. And it happens often too. Like, my clients will call me, hey, Melissa, this doesn't work. Let's walk through it. And so much of it is just guessing and checking. I think, so remember, we're the generation of computers. So we learned how to use computers by guessing and checking. It's the same with the house. You just guess and check. I mean, maybe with electrical, be a little cautious, but everything else.
No, even in my field, I love YouTube. YouTube University. I mean, they should really push that, because there's so many things to see and learn. And even if you go through a couple of videos, you'll be able to tell who's more legit and who's like the MacGyver who's just going to wing it with duct tape. Yeah. Maybe not follow that guy's situation, but I YouTube so many things on house improvements, on, even in my field. I'm not going to see everything. So seeing perspectives from other technicians out in different parts of the country, what they come across, then that just gives me more things that go through my head logically to check off before I do something.
The more experience you get so I remember when I was like a new realtor, I'd get a problem and it would just ruin my week. Now that I run a team, one of them comes across a problem, I'm like, give it to me, baby. Yeah. Like, I like the complicated ones.
Yeah, the complicated ones are ones because I have to scratch my brain again. The basic ones are like, oh, that's not a problem. Yeah. That's a hiccup. Done.
Melissa, I have to talk to you about something. And then it's like one of those silly things like, well, did you check the power switch? Okay. It's not that serious, honey. Yeah. But no, it's cool. It's cool to see that growth for sure. What is one phrase that you live by?
I was really glad you asked that one, because I just came across a quote that is now a new outlook for me. And because I was struggling at first, I was like, I don't know, they have so many out there that depends on my mood, what phrase I'm going to go off of today. But one I just heard, and Michael J. Fox. Yeah. He said, gratitude makes opportunity or optimism stable.
Yeah.
So, because, he has to be optimistic about his situation. His way of doing that and keeping it constant in his life about being optimistic is being grateful for the things that he has, the people he has, the situation that he has. And, that just was a big thing to me. I sort of used being grateful as having hope. You have to look at the positive side. And if you can't be happy with those little things that you have, then how are you going to ever build on it? So when you're having a bad day, take a step back and say, well, you know what? I have a house. I have a beautiful, wonderful wife. I have a lovely family. I have friends I can call up right now who are going to answer the phone call. We take them as mundane things, but they're so simple, and you should be grateful because some people don't have that.
Yeah.
The fact that I can still call my mom and dad on Christmas.
You're going to go to their house.
What's that?
You're going to their house.
No, they're in Texas. We're not. They drove back down to Texas. So, but we're going to do it with my sisters, or not my sisters, my wife's family.
Yeah.
Which is just more food. So I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah, that's nice.
But, having that, and then it allows you to be optimistic about other things because you can have that springboard of like, I am grateful for this. All right, so what can I take on? What can I move forward with? So him coming out and saying that, I was just like, there it is.
That's it. I think that's the kindness that you give yourself too, because there's so many times where you feel like you're not doing enough. And having that, okay, I've got my family at home. They love me. I've got this job that I love. It inspires me every single day. Okay, what can I do to make those parts of my life better?
It's so easy to fixate on the failures. What you didn't do right this time. What did you miss? What opportunity you got by? Those are easy to pick out. But they don't ever lead to forward thinking.
No.
So why stay there? Yeah. So Michael J. Fox, thanks for that one, bud.
Thanks, man. We'll see you at Christmas.
Yeah.
But no, it's great. And like, I want to thank you so much. You've been a good friend for years. It's funny how many people that you look back on and you're like, I kind of grew up with this person. Right? Like,
well, even seeing like where we've grown from the time we first met to now, it's like, holy moly. What a life.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's been a long time, but it hasn't been a long time. And then there's been so many experiences. You're just like, wow, where are we going to be in the next 10 years?
Yeah. It's been like 15 years.
It's been a minute.
It feels like it was yesterday that we were just bouncing around downtown. But
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Well, I'm always so thankful for your friendship. Thankful every time I get to see you.
Thank you, Melissa.
I'm trying to show more gratitude also.
Good catch.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank you for being on the podcast. I think you've shared a lot of very valuable information. And I think a lot of realtors are going to learn a lot about HVAC that they didn't know. And
I hope so. I hope I helped a little bit.
I really hope so. I mean, it's so helpful to clients to say, like, I met this professional. He taught me how this works. And now I can teach you about it. It's huge.
It is. It goes a long ways. And I mean, people look at the professionals because we're out here dealing with it every day, but it's not hard. Just kind of immerse yourself into it. And that's pretty much any task you take on in your house. Immerse yourself into it, and it becomes a lot simpler.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot simpler.
I mean, immerse yourself in anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Anything
Take
that's
it on.
important to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On that note, Garrett Holcomb, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Success.